This is Kickin' and Streamin' Podcast, a binge watcher's guide to streaming movies, TV series, and stuff. Here are your hosts, Graham and Jocelyn.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Kickin' and Streaming Podcast. My name is Graham, and with me today is the absolutely fantastic Jojo. Hello, Jojo.
Hello, Graham. How are you?
Oh, Jojo, I'm doing fine. And guess why I'm doing fine?
Why are you doing fine?
Because I ain't got no emotions and shit, you know. I can't afford to not be doing fine. The other thing is that if I complain, who cares? You know?
Yeah. Nobody ever wants to hear.
Nobody cares. Nobody knows. Why do we do this? I don't know, son. Maybe because we're crazy.
It could have something to do with it. Could have
It is
just
possible.
just discussion a little bit.
It's quite possible. It's
Little
quite
bit.
possible.
A little bit of nuttiness. It's okay.
Well,
As long as it's not raisins, I'm fine with nuts.
really?
Really?
Well, that was the rant of the week, innit?
Yes. Raisins can go to hell.
Fuck raisins. Right? So this week we are reviewing a movie. And it is a movie which is a prequel, if you will, to the series The Sopranos. And this movie stars, of course, the son of James Gandolfini, Michael Gandolfini, playing a young Tony Soprano. The movie is currently in theaters or in cinema in the United States and also is available on HBO Max. And since HBO Max is a streaming service of HBO, we have taken the liberty of reviewing this movie. So, Jojo, The Many Saints of Newark.
Yes.
What do you think about this movie? Disclaimer of yours, by the way.
Yes, disclaimer. I need the disclaimer. I need the little asterisk at the bottom that says Jojo has never seen the TV show The Sopranos. So I've never seen the series. I've seen clips from it. I've heard people talk about it. It was such a cultural phenomenon that I do kind of feel like I know about it. Kind of in the sense that if you have a friend who talks about like their crazy family all the time, and if you ever get to meet them, you're kind of like, oh, that's nutty Aunt Fred, and whatever. So this movie is. I can see where some fans of the series are probably going to have some issues with it, just because fans always have issues with something, I feel like. But as a standalone movie, I think you can enjoy it, and I think it's a very good mob movie, gangster movie, if you will, for someone who has never seen The Sopranos or maybe isn't a fan of them. I think that it's definitely something you can watch and pick up, and I don't think you need to have seen the series to be able to enjoy it.
And I absolutely agree with you in that respect, Jojo, because spoiler alert is actually not necessarily about The Sopranos. And to be honest with you, if you knew some Italian, you will know that it's actually in the title of this movie. Right. And I'm going to go into that in just a moment. But I do agree with you in the sense that, yeah, you don't need to have watched The Sopranos, the series, to understand this movie. And as far as a prequel goes, as far as an origin story goes, The Sopranos are actually sort of like secondary characters. And it focuses more because the story is told in the voice of Christopher Moltisanti, who was played by Michael Imperioli. Christopher was Tony's protege, and it always refers to the fact that Tony in his youth was a protege of Christopher Moltisanti's father, Dicky Moltisanti. And so here is why you have the title of the movie, The Many Saints of Newark, because Moltisanti means many saints. This story is about the Moltisanti. And the origin of The Sopranos starts with the Moltisanti. So here's why you have the name of the movie, the title of the movie, The Many Saints of Newark. I suspect that there are some more movies to come because there was no resolution, to be honest with you, relating this movie to how the series started and how it So, what do you think of that, Jojo?
I agree with you. I think that there is definitely going to be people who are going to be interested in watching it. I can see a big resurgence of people rewatching The Sopranos, and also people who haven't seen it before, or who maybe were too young when it came out to watch it, going, I want to see what this is all about, and watching that. And then that causing more interest in there being more movies and more side stories and more prequels, or maybe things that happen afterwards. So I see this becoming, a much bigger franchise than it currently is. Not that it isn't huge, but lots more facets to the story coming out, I guess, is a better way to put it.
It's a brilliant move to create the origin story of The Sopranos, but at the same time, there are far too many stories that can be told within the Sopranos universe. And I think this is the reason why I suspect that there's going to be more to come as movies. I would very much like for it to be another series, right? I mean, there's a revival of Dexter coming
Yeah.
out there, and
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of feel like a lot of this started with Star Wars. Because there was the original trilogy, and then George Lucas did prequels before he did the sequels, which he wasn't involved in the sequels. But now there's been a huge interest and a huge resurgence in telling side stories, and in telling series, and picking up these minor characters that weren't really integral necessarily to the plot of they weren't the heroes or the baddies necessarily, the big baddies of the movie, but now they're going to be having their own series, or they're going to have their own movies. Like the example was Rogue One. The Star Wars movie Rogue One is just a little story about a side quest of characters that are mentioned in one sentence in one of the movies, and it's a great movie. It's a great standalone movie on its own, and you don't, in my opinion, have to be a Star Wars fan or even know anything about Star Wars to find it interesting and intriguing and engaging. So I can see the same thing happening with The Sopranos, in the fact that there's such a large cast of characters in the original series, and so many stories that could be told about very minor characters that could be completely fascinating and just blow you away.
I mean, the idea of going back and telling stories of characters that people are curious about in the first iteration of the story, I think is a good thing. I think we need more of that. I just don't know, Jojo, if this needed to be a movie. I think it could have been a series,
Mhm.
and perhaps the story could have been told better in a series. Because to be honest with you, there were some points in the movie where it kind of got really sluggish, and frankly a bit boring.
And I wonder if the decision to make it a movie as opposed to a series was kind of a testing the water type thing. Like,
I think you are onto something here.
let's see what if there is interest in
Yeah.
something, and if this does okay, then we'll open it up to maybe more series, or open this up as a series, like kind of like, I don't know, like almost this was a pilot to a series. I do know from what I read about it that as a box office in cinema, in theater, from what I understand, it did not do very well, but streaming, it's performed beautifully, like much better than expected. So I kind of feel like that is indicative of the way people watched The Sopranos anyway. I mean, it's indicative of the times, of course, anyway, and the fact that it's hard to go to the cinema.
Yeah.
But I think, because you didn't watch The Sopranos in the movie theater. You didn't go to the movie theater every week to see a new episode, or every month to see a new episode, or whatever. You sat at home on the couch and watched it. So I feel like having a movie about it go to theaters, just it's a different kind of an audience, if that makes sense.
I absolutely agree. And again, I from the beginning, like in the moment I read about the plan of making the movie The Many Saints of Newark, I kept asking myself, but why a movie?
Mhm.
Why a movie? Why a movie? Why a movie? And perhaps they wanted to go the Sex and the City way with it. Other than that, I don't know of any other series that had prequels released as movies. I think the most brilliant move about this is the fact that they got Michael Gandolfini to play the character that his father played.
I think he did a great job playing his father, and I wonder how difficult that was for him or how easy that was for him. Was that like a cool thing? Like, oh, I'm gonna go play dad today in one of his most iconic roles, or was it a sad thing, or was it just something he didn't even think about at all? Because he was so young when his father
Yeah,
died, and he is so young.
yeah.
Because when I was watching this, for some reason, I thought he was a little bit older. And I was like, how old is this kid? Like, and he's like, I think he's 22, 23. And so
Is that so? He's that young?
he's very young. So
Oh wow.
I was like, oh God, this poor kid. But
He did a
but
fantastic job.
he did a fantastic job. He really did. He really did.
So I was fascinated by the origin story of Tony's problems in the way it involves Livia Soprano. Why is a mob boss, a guy who is the picture of strength and or machismo, why is that guy going to see a therapist? And why is that guy at his age? Why does he have mommy problems? Why does he have mommy problems? And what we could, as viewers, back in the days watching The Sopranos, attribute to Livy Soprano being just a cranky old lady, we realize that's not actually the case at all. Livy Soprano wasn't a cranky old lady, but rather a toxic mother from the beginning, and she was just being toxic as an older mother. Like it wasn't anything that changed through the years. Is that Livy Soprano was one of those people who had no business having kids and yet did have kids because that's what you did back then, isn't
Yeah, and
it?
they don't get better with age.
Yeah.
They don't. Just like you don't wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to be an asshole. You don't wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to be a good person from now on.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way either. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it gets
it.
worse.
The relationship between Uncle Junior and Tony was always kind of strained, and Uncle Junior seemed to always wanted to take credit to saying that he raised Tony, that he wanted to take credit for whatever Tony came to be. But now more than ever, we understand that Uncle Junior kind of like supplanted himself in the life of Tony. Tony did not himself seek Uncle Junior as his mentor. He looked up to actually Dicky Moltisanti. And I can't help but think that the demise of Dicky Moltisanti has a lot to do with the fact that Uncle Junior was not necessarily jealous of Dicky Moltisanti's power, but rather the fact that he seemed to be occupying all the places that Uncle Junior wanted to be occupying, including having a relationship with his nephew, who sort of like had a bit of an absent father, if you will.
Yeah.
I was also happy to see how brilliantly cast the younger people were. Carmela, the girl who appeared as a Carmela just briefly, looks exactly like Edie Falco, like a young Edie Falco. That was so dope. I was like, okay, so we're gonna go into the cast in a minute, but the guy who is playing Silvio, oh my God, the mannerism, that face, and mm, the standing, and oh man, that was so identical. I was like, okay, I know that Michael Gandolfini is James Gandolfini's son, but who is this dude? I mean, that was amazing, dude.
Ye-
I actually ended up liking it more than I expected.
Yeah, I really feel like they pulled out the stops, if you will, for finding lookalikes, and not like cartoon versions lookalikes, but like you said, like, oh my God, that's them. They
Yeah.
found a time machine and and
Yes, yes.
grabbed them when they were young and brought them into this movie. What in the world?
Yes. I mean, okay, so you all know that Janice Soprano was played by Ada Turturro in the series. And they found a girl who looks like a young and I know that they're supposed to find somebody that's looking like I understand that. But we're talking about here almost like time machine like there is no difference. All you see is a younger Ada Turturro. What are the chances that there's another actor that looks exactly like another actor but like several years younger? You know what I mean? Like I can understand if there is a double of Tom Cruise out there, a double of The Rock or Jennifer Aniston, same age, around the same age or whatever. But a younger, very much younger version is what
Yeah.
fascinates me the most, isn't it?
Yeah. And one that can, act.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
that's another thing too. I mean, I know acting is a learned talent, but there's some people who are never going to be able to learn it. So, I think that is cool too, to find people that can do the mannerisms and things like that.
Yes, yes. For some reason, Ray Liotta pops whenever Mafia is talked about. And I had a problem with both the characters he played. I had a problem with both of the characters he played. And first of all, why? Why wouldn't this nigga just die and just go? Cast somebody else, for fuck's sake. Ray Liotta is the epitome of every mafia boss cliche. And I fucking hate it. I don't know why. Maybe I have a problem with the guy, but that's how I feel. Whenever I see radio, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fucking cheesy. This motherfucker right here. Do you know what I mean?
I actually do, because I share that opinion of him, and I don't know why. I do, but I must have seen something that he was in at some point that just made me dislike him. I don't know, but I ever since whatever it was, whenever he's on screen, I'm just like, oh, shut up, go away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which, I mean, sometimes is good for the character that he's playing. It is somebody that you want to shut up and go away,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So let's talk about the casting, Jojo.
Okay.
All right. So we've already talked about Ray Liotta. I'm not familiar with Michaela De Rossi, but I think she was great. And she
Yeah.
was really, really great in this character.
She was really, really great in the character, and very beautiful, and very I guess the word is sort of vulnerable, but at the same time tough. Like, she did what she had to do to get where she wanted to be. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out for her, but she was good. And I liked the character.
So Michael Gandolfini, we like you said, he is his father's son. He's his father's son, man, and he's done an absolutely fantastic job. Continuing with the casting, Vera Farmiga pulled off an entirely convincing Livia Soprano, and this is when I have to tell you, Jojo, maybe you should start watching The Sopranos tonight. We say that John Bernthal played Johnny Boy Soprano. That was Tony's father. Alessandro Nivola played Dicky Moltisanti. I don't know this dude.
I don't know.
So he's been on Jurassic Park 3,
I didn't see that.
The Art of Self-Defense, Disobedience in 2017, and of course The Many Saints of Newark. But this is not an actor, like he had the face of, I know this guy, where have I seen this guy? But I couldn't make out anything that I could say I had seen him in.
And also very, like, I don't know, he seemed like a very polished actor, like one who'd been around the
Yes.
block a few times.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, I'm not sure what.
Gabriella Piazza played Joan Moltisanti. And I couldn't make out who the fuck was playing Polly Gualtieri. And it was Billy Magnuson. And he was very convincing. Very convincing. Polly Gualtieri was one of my favorite characters. And then Silvio Dante was played by John Margaro. That's another dude I don't know. So apparently he's on the Umbrella Academy. But you and I don't watch the Umbrella Academy.
No, I couldn't do it. I tried. I could not do it.
Yeah. And then Corey Stoll played Uncle Junior. And I'm glad they cast this guy to play Uncle Junior because he was a good Uncle Junior. He was a good Uncle Junior. All he had to do was put on those glasses, you know, and he looked like a young Dominic Chianese, and that's why I'm expecting a sequel. There's
Yeah.
got to be. and another one.
Yeah.
There's got to be another one, because what do you think of Leslie Odom Jr. finally playing some tough guy?
I thought he did really well.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, I
was
thought he did
pleased to
really.
see old Leslie Odom Jr. not dancing and singing and shit. Oh shit, this nigga gonna be singing.
Nobody told me this was a musical. The hell are they gonna fit this in with The Sopranos?
Shit, he gonna break out singing, man. Oh, fuck. And then I see this motherfucker killing people and shit, being
Yep.
all tough and whatever. I'm like, okay, hey, Leslie, I see you, nigga. I see you, my brother. I think they took good care in casting the minor characters who in the real series were very important part of the show, right?
Mhm.
And that's what I like about it. So
I think
stars wise, what do you go?
I say solid 3 to 3.25 stars.
Of course, you can find us on social media. That's Twitter, Instagram,
Mhm.
Pinterest, except
YouTube.
LinkedIn. We're on YouTube, so find us there too. And good news, JoJo is back on Instagram, son.
I am.
JoJo, how can they
back.
find you on Instagram?
I am a KNS co-host. So Kicking and Streaming co-host. KNS co-host.
Yes, sir.
That's me.
And I is on the Instagram as Mr. Pucheta. You will also find me there also. On Twitter as Mr. Pucheta. That's MRPUZZETGA. So we have arrived to the end of the show. We hope you watch this episode. No, you watch the movie that we talked about. And also tell us what you think. If you are a Sopranos fan, what did you like? What did you not like? All right, so we're gonna call it a day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for watching. This is goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Kicking and Streaming Podcast. If you found value in our content, please subscribe and share. We would also be delighted to hear what you think of this podcast. So please rate us by writing a quick review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all major social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Join the conversation happening today on our Facebook group.